coffee, few more cookies so we can get through this. This is the pillar you've all been waiting for, I know it. This is the most exciting thing on the planet. If you don't want to join us at the end of this, I don't know what's wrong with you. So, my name is Suzanne Harrison. I'm the co-chair, along with Alan Lowe, of the Diversity and Inclusion Pillar and Committee. I have put together this panel, Alan and I have, of actually all of the different parts of the ecosystem that we're working with. We're working with corporations and law firms. We're trying to get increasing diversity in the profession, all along those things. And I think it's more important that you hear from these folks directly than just hear from Alan and I. Just a few notes about the committee. In January 2021, we kicked off our pillar and committee with the Diversity Pledge, which was aimed at corporations and increasing inclusivity and inventorship and innovation. We have 50 companies now actually implementing best practices and measuring results of change in their patent applications for underrepresented inventors. Very exciting. We are branching out into other parts of the ecosystem, and you're going to hear a little bit more about that today. Please, please, please join the community. Come up and talk to any of these folks tonight, anytime. You can't help but be inspired. This is what we need. As Kathy Vidal said, if we increase our inventors by 4 times, that will increase GDP by 4.5%. Last year, according to our numbers, that's $1 trillion that we can add to the bottom line of our country. This is really about improving our nation. It doesn't get any better than that. So I'm going to turn it over to Esther Lim. You met her before. She's a partner at Finnegan and also the head of the D&I process there. So Esther, take it away, and good luck, you guys.
Thank you. I'd first like to thank Suzanne Harrison and Alan Lowe for serving as visionary co-leaders of the D&I Committee of US IP Alliance. Scott, you really know how to pick them. Thank you. I am so delighted and privileged to moderate this panel on DEI with distinguished panelists who bring diverse sets of experiences and perspectives. I would love for each of the panelists to introduce themselves. Jeremiah?
Hi, everyone. Excited to be here with you. I'm Jeremiah Chan. I'm Associate General Counsel at Meta Platforms, formerly Facebook, and I lead the patents, licensing, and open source team.
And I'm Ken Seddon, currently the CEO of Lot Network. I'll explain more about that in a minute. But I come from an IP background, worked at Intel, Apple, Motorola, and ARM in the past.
Hi, I'm Elizabeth Lester. I am Assistant General Counsel, Intellectual Property at Equifax, also known as their one and only IP lawyer. And I am also the Vice Chair of the Education and Awareness Pillar for the Georgia Intellectual Property Alliance.
Thank you. We have a big topic to cover: DEI in the IP profession and in inventorship. As you heard throughout the day, we're not looking at really great numbers. We've come a long way, but we have much farther to go. The lack of diversity in the IP profession, we're looking at 22% women. Blacks, 1.7%. Hispanic Latino, 1.9%. Racially diverse women, I'm one of 1.7% in the profession. We don't fare better for patent inventorship. You heard the numbers earlier. 13% women, 1% respectively for Black and Hispanic Latino communities. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a long way to go. So we want to unpack a bit about how you explain this patent inequity gap and what are the ways in which we can reverse this trend. I know this is a big question, but I'm going to throw it out to the panel to address it.
All right, I'll kick it off then. So one thing I like to tell my business, and in trying to explain this, they say, well, it's just because there's not as many women in tech. And I say, no. The problem is that even when you look at the representation, the proportional number of women who are inventors on patent applications or other underrepresented groups that are inventors on patent applications is still disproportionate. So there is a pretty big delta there, as she was saying. Let's see, I think it's STEM overall is 35% now overall women, if you look at STEAM overall. But in some fields like biological sciences, chemical sciences, pharma, you have much higher levels of women, often close to 50%. But yet women in those fields are still inventing at a much lower rate than men. So the question is why? What are those issues? And that's what the Diversity Pledge is looking at with that. It's a real challenge, and Equifax signed on to the Diversity Pledge. I'm thrilled that we were able to do that, and we're working on looking at that. What is the reason that, for some reason, my women developers, engineers don't seem to be as aware about the opportunity to patent?
And part of the challenge that U.S. IP Alliance is trying to address as a collective is the consolidation of the fragmented DEI efforts. And so the Diversity Pledge that Elizabeth mentions targets that issue directly. So can you explain further about what the Diversity Pledge is? What are the learnings to date and the ongoing challenges?
Yeah, sure. So the Diversity Pledge was launched last summer, July 2021. There was a great conference. There's a lot of content out of that available on the web. And it's based on the idea that there's this gender gap and other underrepresented groups in inventing. And so let's start pooling together our best plans, right? Let's figure out what's working and what's not. And so we actually have the companies that have signed on, we have monthly meetings on various initiatives, whether it's how to capture the data. It's actually really difficult to capture the data on the demographics of your inventor population, whether you're working with your HR department or how exactly that works. And if you're a multinational company, it adds additional complexity if you're looking at demographics across geographic bounds, given data privacy rules and other restrictions on data use. So that's one big challenge, and so that's something we've spent a lot of time talking about. And then once you have that data, how do you measure it? How do you actually figure out what you're comparing it to? What is your inventor population? I like to tell my business, I'm like, just because you're in marketing doesn't mean you can't be an inventor. Anybody in my business could be an inventor, right? It could be a customer service rep who comes up with an idea for better processing calls. So I think that that's another challenge, is how do you actually evaluate that, right? How do you look at who your inventor population is in a company? And then there's also the types of programs that you're going to put in place. How do you figure out if you're moving the needle other than just looking at the change of your inventor demographics, right? And so I think it's really exciting opportunity for us to come together and collaborate. And you get a lot of great feedback from everybody about the different ways that we can partner together. People share ideas, hey, let me share my survey with you for my inventors, or hey, I'm happy to run this, or take a look at this template or this program or this training, or we've tried this and it didn't work so great, but we did this and it had a lot more success. And so really that opportunity to share best practices I think is really valuable. And we're still pretty early in, so I don't know that anybody's seen a huge impact, but there have been some people who've been working in the space for longer. Just changing the name of your invention disclosure form to something like idea disclosure form actually has been shown within some companies to have a statistical impact.
You raised a couple excellent points, Elizabeth, about the importance of data collection but also going beyond that, what do you do with the data that you collect? How do you make it work to advance DEI? Jeremiah, I know this has been an issue that you've been working very hard on and that you're passionate about. Can you share some recent experiences of what Meta has been doing on the data collection and sharing front?
Sure. Well, backing up for a second to the pledge and then also the conference that happened contemporaneously, we were very involved as a founding pledge member, but kind of the idea behind it was in talking to a lot of great organizations like Anita B. and NESB and others that we kind of sought for advice and help. One of the things that we learned was don't just run off on your own, try to get as many companies on board as possible. And this is why I think today we have over 50 companies that have signed the pledge. And the pledge is really around specific actions that companies have agreed to take to better engage underrepresented inventors. And I'll give another kudos to the USPTO, because really it was the USPTO that started this ball rolling back in 2019 with the Progress and Potential report. And then a series of roundtables, several of which I attended with, at the time, former Director Iancu, and the one I attended also at Congresswoman Lufgren, all there saying, what are we going to do? And essentially looking at the participating companies and saying, we're not going to be able to do this. We need your help. And so what are you going to do? And I remember looking around the room thinking, okay, I think we need to do something, because this is not going to be a USPTO-led change for the country. They've made the data transparent. Now it's up to us to actually dig in and try to make some differences here, some of which I think Elizabeth has talked about. I think there have been great opportunities to share best practices. I've been involved with many of these work streams where companies have been meeting together to share what they're doing and saying what's working, what's not. But at the end of the day, without data, it's virtually impossible. If you're not looking at the data and you're trying all sorts of things and not looking to see whether or not the data has improved or not improved, it really is like shooting in the dark. And so I analogize, I often don't like to recreate the wheel. And so I think about other kind of adjacent examples where we can learn from. And one that I think about is back in 2013, when virtually no public company was producing an annual diversity report. And if you know the story, there was a software engineer named Tracy Cho at the time, who actually noticed the drastic underrepresentation of female engineers, software engineers, and she actually issued a call to action on these big companies saying, show us the data. And the very next year, Google, Amazon, Facebook, and I think a couple of other big successful companies actually produced their first annual diversity report. And since then, I think we have seen a lot more transparency and change. And that was why, even though the Diversity Pledge doesn't specifically ask companies to produce their data, because too many companies were nervous about that, potentially looking bad, even though we all know everyone looks bad, right? That's what the Progress and Potential report showed us. Still, companies, they were all really nervous about it. They didn't really want to push. And so the only requirement there is in year 3 of the Diversity Pledge, companies will produce their data to a third party, but completely anonymously. And then all that aggregate data will be shared, so you can see just how bad we're all doing, which we all know that's going to be bad. A couple of the companies decided to go a step further in the spirit of Tracy Cho, which is just show your numbers. There is no PII, there is no confidential information at an aggregate level. And so Lenovo and Meta last month at the annual IPO meeting published our numbers. And so I'll tell you, for Meta, our inventorship rate for female inventors at the company is 17.6%. I am not saying that because I'm super proud of that number. We have about 25% females in our technical roles. So you can see 25%, 17.6, we're missing the boat, right? We have team members who their job is to engage these inventors, and we're leaving people out. We're leaving people out of the party, out of the discussion. And so I'm saying that to say we need transparency. We have to make changes, but then we also have to measure. And if we don't measure, and if we don't start this transparency and this data sharing, it's going to be really hard to expect a difference in the kind of progress that we want to see.
Well, thank you for your participation and Meta's leadership in advancing transparency, and for sharing with us the power of one to make change, going back to Tracy Cho's example and call to action. Segueing back to the importance of data and how that can help with diversity in the profession, we talked a lot today about the importance of representation and assistance in helping inventors protect their innovations, and how difficult it is to afford lawyers, and what pro bono options there might be. And so one of the pro bono programs that we mentioned was through the PTO. And we would love to hear, Elizabeth, how that pro bono program has been working locally.
So Georgia actually has one of the most active pro bono programs in the country. It's in Georgia Patents, which is under the Georgia Lawyers for the Arts organization. Meredith Reagains is the executive director of Georgia Lawyers for the Arts and does a fabulous job with that. But we have obviously a very active intellectual property and patent bar in Georgia, which is why we were able to move forward with GIPA. But we're able to partner with them. GIPA does help fundraise and support them, and we try to help support and get volunteers as well. And they partner the inventors that come to Georgia Patents with pro bono volunteers, usually practitioners in the community, to help them prepare and file their patent applications. So it's been very successful from what I've seen so far. My guess is that their only limitations are on the number of people that they can support, are funding, volunteers, and awareness, right? All of which hopefully we all can help with. But most states have these types of programs, whether it's in the patent space or the trademark space, and great opportunities for people to get involved.
Well, what a wonderful call to action in terms of each of us lending a hand in making change and improving the current situation. Diversity in the IP profession, or shall we say lack thereof. We need to somehow challenge the long-standing lack of representation in the legal profession, and particularly in IP. We recognize that it's not a short game, but a marathon, and there are a number of pipeline programs to help help turn the corner on where we are. So I'll start off sharing one of the programs that Finnegan has done this year. We launched a program called Finnegan IP University. The vision behind that program was that through our experiences, particularly for me personally, teaching at Howard as an adjunct for the last 20 years, teaching Introduction to Patent Law and Patent Policy courses, I've had a number of students come up to me to share, I wish I had known about a career in IP earlier. I would have finished my degree in biomedical engineering. I didn't know that I could combine law with science. The lack of awareness and early outreach is emphasized through those individual student stories. And so rather than waiting until you reach students at law schools, we decided to go one step earlier to STEM majors in colleges and universities around the country, both pursuing undergraduate and graduate STEM degrees. When we launched this program in the middle of a pandemic where we can't even have an in-person meeting, it was supposed to be through a series of Zoom sessions. Our goal was 20 students in our inaugural year. We had over 100 students around the country apply from nearly 60 different colleges and universities, and from half dozen international colleges. We ultimately had about 80 STEM majors participate in a 5-week program introducing them to careers in IP law, and went through the nuts and bolts of overview of patents and other aspects of the profession. And some of the graduates of our first class of Finnegan IP University are now working at the firm as technical specialists. So, this is a program that we fully intend to continue and to expand in the future. But it's also aligned with other programs that are going on. And I'd love, Jeremiah, for you to share what you've been doing.
Yeah, no, thank you, Esther. We'd love to talk about some cool stuff that we're doing. But before I do that, given the lateness in the day, I kind of want to get to some real talk, which is, I think today we've heard about some neat initiatives that people are doing or thinking about. But I would say before you get to any of that or continue doing any of that, you first need to look in the mirror. And what I mean by that is you have to examine yourself and look at your own teams. So for many of you who are hiring managers and leaders at organizations or law firms, is your team diverse? So before you go off and continue to do all these diversity initiatives, you gotta stop and look at your own team. Otherwise, you're proceeding with kind of the elephant in the room, this hypocrisy of talking about DEI, promoting all these initiatives, but yet you're not even hiring diverse talent. You're not even building diverse teams. Now, I say that not as a judgment here, but more of a confession, because that was me for quite a while, up until only a few years ago, where someone called me out at a conference after I was done speaking and said, hey, I've gotten a look at your team. You talk about all these diversity initiatives, but your team isn't really diverse. And it was kind of a wake-up call to say, stop talking and go address what you need to address. And so this is the part where I will say, once I did that, everything changed. Everything changed. And in many ways, it's almost like a flywheel effect, where if you start to understand how to build a truly diverse team, and you actually give people a chance, talented individuals from marginalized communities, put them in positions of leadership and power. And I will say, just watch what they do. So a few examples I'll give you, and I'm privileged to have many of my team here today with me, and just quite honored. But just let me name a few examples of leaders on my team who've gotten a chance to be in a position of power. And not only are they in that position of power, they're willing to use that power and know how to use that power and influence and network to create meaningful change. So one of the leaders on my team is Shane O'Reilly. He created Meta Legal Department's 1L diversity program. These are programs, summer programs. Summer programs that are bringing 30, 40 1L students at a time from marginalized communities and giving them a chance to be at Meta and watch how the legal department works. It's an incredible experience. He, on his own, and even though he keeps giving me credit for it, I had nothing to do with it, he started an HBCU scholarship with Goodwin Procter that is now funding law students who have an inclination to go into IP who are coming from marginalized communities. He's literally like making a way for them so they don't have to go through a lot of the challenges that many of us have gone through. And he's also a leader in our Black legal professional employee resource group at the company of 180 Black legal professionals. So that's one leader I have. I have another leader, Michael Binns, who started this program, ADAPT, that Ken is going to talk all about. It is the first of its kind, and you're going to hear all about it from Ken, industry-wide initiative to make it easier for companies to just plug into DEI initiatives and get involved. All the companies who say, I don't know what to do, I want to get involved, don't know how, no more excuses. Go to adapt.legal, you're set, and Ken's going to talk all about that. And then I've got Braxton Davis standing over there as well, who we hired just last year. But long before we hired Braxton Davis, he founded an organization, a nonprofit called NCPP, because he saw a need for it, and they provide free patent prosecution training to women and minorities. One of the things that we did when Braxton joined Meta was we said, hey, how about we give a call to our law firms who complain about not being able to find diverse candidates? And we say, what if we just handed them to you? This is what Braxton and our team do now. We have, from last year, our first cohort, we have 3 full-time technical specialists at top-tier firms collecting 6-figure salaries. We had to hire a financial advisor for them because they said, we've never seen so much income. He is now working on the next 8 students who are going through the patent prosecution program, and he is on his cell phone 24/7, placing them at law firms who are committed to building diverse teams. This is how we change the industry. So we can talk all day about mentorship and I'm doing this and I'm doing that. Number one, look at your own team. What are you doing? Are you really part of the solution or are you actually part of the problem?
I know we can't poach any of them. So does Braxton have a twin brother? These programs are phenomenal. And one of the real life impacts of these programs is not necessarily even the dollar value, but the experience you get when you go to a place like Meta and get to work with the in-house legal team and learn the trade, develop those relationships, get mentoring and sponsorship opportunities for you to grow in the profession. I know on that note, Elizabeth, Equifax has internship programs precisely for that reason. Can you share your experiences?
Yeah, so one of the joys about being the lone one in my department means I have a lot of fun, and I have a lot of say in what happens in my department. So one way I have chosen to give back is by participating in the externship program with Georgia State College of Law, where 2 and 3Ls will come and work with me for a semester. It's been a wonderful experience and opportunity. I think this is my 4th semester now doing it. And I have a tendency to lean towards hiring diverse individuals. It's funny because all of my applicants for the spring semester were diverse, which makes it really easy, but it also says something to me that they're the ones that are applying for the experience and that they're hearing good things. But it just provides a really great opportunity for them to get legal experience. I get some free labor, they get college or class credit, all around good opportunity. And I think that more corporations, especially who have law schools nearby, this is a great opportunity to work with and partner with your local law schools and reaching out to diverse candidates and giving them that network and that opportunity. Because I do think as they start their legal career, that sort of gives them a leg up because they've already had the opportunity to work in-house at a client. And that's not something that most young lawyers have had the opportunity to do.
What a win-win. Ken, I'd like to go to you next because I know you have a lot to share about Lot and Adapt. Are those slides?
We're going to find out if we're technically challenged. I'll try to pull the slides up, see if that works today. Hopefully it does. So hopefully as he's getting those up. So why I'm here, personally I'm here because I guess as an elder of this industry, I have to take responsibility for all those stats and numbers that you were quoting. I've been in this profession for 25 years. I have to own those numbers. But fortunately, my organization now is in a position where we can do something about it to try to help fix it. So I'm more proud about getting to wear the Adapt shirt to get to support that my organization.
Could you please stand up and showcase the beautiful shirt?
Thank you. So yeah, I'm the CEO of Lot, but today I'm here to talk about and brag about our affiliation and our relationship with Adapt. So what a Lot is, just real quick, we'll stay with the slides for a second. What Lot Network is from the corporate world, it's 2,500 companies that originally all got together to solve the NPE, non-practicing entity problem. The street term is patent trolls, but I hate that word. It's pejorative, it's not productive. All these companies have signed the exact same licensing agreement where they've agreed if any of their patents ever fall in the hands of an NPE, they grant them each other a patent license. Collectively, they own 3.6 million patents, where 16% of all US patents are now under this license agreement, so 1 out of 6. And 2 members right here, we've got many in the room, AT&T is now a proud member of our community. But what it means is when you have that many smart companies working together, they've working very hard on solving this issue, but then you go beyond that and there's other problems they can start to solve. And so what companies, when they normally would be fierce competitors in the industry, all of these companies were very passionate when it came to the issue of DEI. And so we were very humbled that these companies, Meta, Disney, Microsoft, Google, Cruise, Amazon could all get together and they formed Adapt. And what Adapt is about is advancing diversity across patent teams. So it's about improving diversity within the legal departments of all these companies. And we've been very fortunate that the types of companies that these companies in particular were involved in as the founders These companies are very blessed. They're very open-minded. They've been able to experiment over the last couple of years and try different things to see what works. Google uses the term they crash the airplane over and over again. They have lots of resources. They have access to lots of data, as Jeremiah was talking about. And it's through all that trial and error they've been able to figure out what works and what doesn't work. And they just launched their program. We were able to be at their platform a couple weeks ago in San Francisco. And I got to tell you, it was the most touching event I've ever been at in the IP profession. You had 100 chief IP counsels in a room like this, all staring at the stage, laptops closed for 5 hours. And it was absolutely captivating and heartbreaking. And working with the team at ADAPT, and some are many here in this room, working with these, I'm going to call them kids because I have 7 kids that are about the same age, and I'm an elder, I get to do that. But these are some of the most scary smart people, the most generous of spirit, open-minded people. I feel like I'm grateful that I get to work with them and that our profession is in good hands. We need to support this next generation and let them take over the wheel for a little while and support what these folks are doing. We've seen all the stats. I'm just going to throw in one more here, courtesy of Mike Binns. He actually pointed out there are more people, more attorneys and agents in our profession named Michael than there are racially diverse women in our profession. And that's just wrong in so many levels, especially as the father of 5 daughters. That's just so wrong. So these companies have gotten together, they formed ADAPT, and basically, and it wasn't just something that was thrown together. There's a lot of effort that's put this together. They've got best-in-class tools, solutions, programs. They know what they're doing. We need to trust the effort and time that went into this. And it's really a time to transition from a period of analysis to a time of action. I know there are lots of well-intentioned companies, thousands of companies that want to get behind this. There are hundreds of organizations, hundreds of law firms that all want to start doing initiatives and get behind this, but we can't be fractured in our approach. If everyone's doing a little bit in a different direction, it's not going to move the ball. We all have to consolidate our efforts and get behind what are proven solutions. We have very limited resources. We have a very short amount of time. It's time to consolidate and really make the most of our resources. And that's really what ADAPT is all about. They have invested all this time. They've created an amazing website, which is what some of the pages that I'm showing you now, which I don't know if they're coming off very well. But what they've done is they've inventoried all the best solutions that are out there. And it's not, you don't have to be a Meta or a Google or Microsoft in order to implement them. The real power of this is they've already figured out what's the best solution. If you want to educate high school students, if you want to take engineers and teach them how to do patent analysis, whatever it is you want to solve when it comes to DEI, their website is designed to provide templates, the program, and how to scale it for an organization of any size. So you go in there and you say, this is what I want to do, this is who I want to influence, this is the resources and size that I have, and it'll tell you, it'll blueprint for you, these are the types of resources that are out there. And it'll highlight organizations that already have success stories. So there's no I'm sorry the pun, but there's no need to recreate the wheel here. I know we've all worked at companies that suffered from not invented here syndrome. We don't have time to do that and waste on that. We need to throw ego out the window and recognize that very smart people, smarter than us, have come up with proven solutions, and we just need to start adopting those solutions. So it's kind of, and I know we're limited on time, it's kind of as a next step. So I'd encourage you to go to the website. It's adapt.legal. It's up and running. If you are an individual, whether you're just getting into the profession, or if you are an elder like myself, you can go in there and sign up to be mentored or be a mentor. They got a program that's going to launch very soon. If you're a company that wants to get involved, I know, and they're still allowing other companies to get involved with this and be considered a founder. I don't think it's going to be free for very long. I think they've created something incredibly valuable and powerful. But I'm sure I know there's a lot of companies that are very passionate about dealing with DEI. Get involved now. If you're a law firm, go to the website. There's a lot of programs on there that teach you about having pipelining programs, internships. If you're a nonprofit, there's tools on there. You can go on there, let your program be known. If you have already a program about educating women or disadvantaged students or high school students, let them know about you. We'll get that listed on the website as well, so we can help be a platform to share your information. So regardless of who you are in here, if you're a university wanting to educate students, there's something for everybody in this room that's on that website. And I would just encourage all of you to go there and find something that you can immediately take action on and do.
Thank you, Ken. I think he started us off in a lightning round of call to action. He's issued a call to action to each one of you to participate in ADAPT. Elizabeth?
On top of ADAPT, I think we actually need to start younger, right? We need to encourage kids in K through 12 to really start thinking about innovation and IP. And so USPTO, Mickelson, US IPA Alliance, GIPA, we all are working on different things. GIPA has programs. We collaborate with the National Inventors Hall of Fame. USPTO also partners with them. There's so many great programs going on. But that's another great way that you can contribute and give back. So if you prefer smaller people rather than older people, that's an easy way to go to the people that are less jaded.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Jeremiah?
I think we've all talked about how a number of us have been in this profession for a while. And we know that the way we've been doing things has not worked. We've heard the data and we've seen a lot of the statistics. So we have to change behaviors. I think for many of us who have been in this profession for a while, we've really benefited. We've had great careers and we've enjoyed it. But we have to realize that the party has been exclusive. It has not been open to everyone. We see that. We see that all the time. And so I think it's time for us to really understand, how do we make it more accessible and equitable for everyone? And I think there's lots of ways on the ADAPT site. There's things that Elizabeth has shared, but the last thought I'd leave you with is for the patent pipeline program and NCPP, we have the founder right over there you can talk to. We already have more and more law firms and companies reaching out. It's literally working with NCPP and calling up your law firms who are committed to building diverse teams and placing those people in roles. I mean, we can change the numbers today.
Thank you, Jeremiah. I would like to conclude this panel on the thought that James Howard shared earlier about the power of kindness extended to random strangers and how they can change someone's life. So I challenge each of us to extend that kindness to a random stranger. Thank you very much.